Leadership, success. Hi, welcome. My name is Jonathan Medina. I'm America's #1 youth motivator. I'm your teacher, I'm your coach, I'm your friend, and I'm your teammate. And today we're talking about leadership and success. We have an awesome guest today. Today we are welcoming James Wilson. Just to tell you a little bit about him, he is an established student leader with a track record of service, compassion, and accomplishment. He currently serves over 15,000 members of Georgia HOSA as their state vice president. In his own community, he has been recognized with the Youth of the Year Award, as well as the Martin Luther King Jr. Young Dreamers Award, as well as the Newton County Schools CTAE Student of the Year Award. James's guiding principle is that the man in the arena is of the man in the arena. You have the choice to stand up and take action or sit back and watch those who do. And one final thing is in his spare time, you can find him still watching Cartoon Network at the age of 18. Please help me welcome my friend, a great leader, James Wilson. Hi, James.
Can you hear me?
Yes, that works great.
Perfect. How you doing?
Excellent. So James, I just told everyone about all of your amazing accomplishments. I told them how you are the state vice president of Georgia HOSA. I told them how you still watch Cartoon Network.
Yes.
Tell everyone how you first got started into student leadership.
So I got started into student leadership really with ROTC, MCJ ROTC. It's a leadership course. So when I took it in 9th grade, you're talking about leadership every day. It kind of grows on you a little bit. And so that's really, I got my start there and with HOSA. I joined ROTC and HOSA in my 9th grade year, and those have just been like rockets for me. They took me off.
Oh, awesome. Now, when you were first joining ROTC, when you were first joining HOSA, were you nervous at all? Were you excited? Was there a lot of pressure?
There was a lot of emotion, especially with ROTC, because I didn't want to do it. I did not want to do it. I had a saxophone in my closet. I swore I was going to be in band. And then things changed and I ended up in ROTC. And the first day was horrible for me. I hated it. I was scared. I was nervous. It was a lot of emotions. But as I came to grow in the program, the program really grew in me. And as far as HOSA, there was a lot of kind of anxiety. There were a lot of upperclassmen in the organization. It was a lot of juniors and seniors, and I'm kind of scared of them. So I don't know if I want to be with them all day, every day. But I kind of had to get over that emotion. I kind of had to grow up over it. That was kind of just like a bit of my immaturity still there. And I had to kind of grow over that.
That's super awesome because we got to hear all of your accomplishments, to see that you were nervous and a little bit worried. But you still went into the organization, you still pursued it. Was there a reason why you didn't join band at all?
The reason I didn't join band was because I was taking I'm in an advanced academic program. And so with HOSA and ROTC, we all kind of got together and thought that it would be best if I chose between ROTC and band, because they're both commitments. And you can't have a whole lot of commitments, especially when you're just starting out. And so I said, I want band. My mom said, I want ROTC. And she won.
Well, absolutely. That's a huge, awesome tip. And I'm glad you had people around you that helped you kind of see the vision for that. I actually wanted to join ROTC when I went into high school. A lot of the really cool kids that I looked up to were in ROTC. It just didn't work out in my schedule because I was an athlete and because I had so many advanced placement courses in my curriculum.
Yes.
Basically, I would have to pick either athletics or ROTC because of the just there's only so much time in the day, and so I wasn't able to do it at my high school. But I definitely respect so many of the students who do ROTC. That's such a huge one, as well as HOSA. So can you tell us about your experience with HOSA?
So I joined HOSA. HOSA was, again, another organization that I did not want to join at first. I was in a class, health science, and I was kind of nervous about joining HOSA because I had never heard of it before. I had heard of TSA, FCCLA, FBLA. I had never heard of HOSA. It was brand new to me. And two of my friends, they said, you know what, I'm not going to join. So I said, you know what, I'm with y'all. And my teacher in that class she kept saying, James, come on, join. She kept pushing me further and further. And I kept just saying, oh yeah, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh yeah, I'll do it this day and that. And I kept trying to duck and dodge. And eventually she too won. And she said, James, I really want you to come to Fall Leadership Conference. I really want you to come and experience it. If you experience it and you don't like it, fine, I'll leave you alone. If you love it, then we'll see where it goes. I went to Fall Leadership Conference and I fell in love with HOSA right there, 2017 Fall Leadership Conference. That's where I fell in love with it. And I've been passionate about it and running with it ever since.
Yeah, absolutely. I wish back when I was in school, I didn't know about all the conferences and the events because my school didn't really participate in those kind of activities. So our sponsors didn't really push us to do them. And so I really feel like I missed out by not attending the leadership conference because I see how so many of the students end up capturing a vision of all the different ways, all the different things they could do. And then you build a network with so many other awesome leaders from all across the state, or if you go to national, all across the country. So those are just awesome events to go to.
They are.
What would be a tip that you would give to someone who was just starting out?
My tip would really be follow what you want to do. When you're first starting out, it's easy to want to be comfortable and it's easy to want to be surrounded by people that you know. The biggest tip that I can give you is to be ready to get out of your comfort zone, or even if you're not ready, just do it. And then aside from getting out of your comfort zone, you have to meet new people. You won't go very far if you stick with the same people that you came in with. There's no problem with remaining friends. All of my friends, all of my close friends, we've been friends since like second grade. But you have to branch out. You have to meet new people and make new connections. So if you're just now starting out, this is like your first, even your second year, branch out and get out of your comfort zone. That's the only way that you'll make meaningful progress.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great advice. I can think back to some of my best friends, even still to this day, are people that where I reached out, I branched out at one of these student leadership conferences or events, whether it be my senior year or going into while I was in college. I have some friends that I really met by going out and branching out, and they've continued to be great friends and helped me
Right.
to advance in my career or in my business. So it's been a really great tip to have, or a great strategy to have. Now, I know that I've made so many mistakes as a leader. I'm sure you've had so many great things that have happened, but you've got to have had some mistakes that you've made as a leader. Now, can you give an advice, give some a mistake to avoid for other leaders out there?
The biggest mistake you can make is wasting your own time. And that's something that I've mastered. I have mastered the art of wasting my own time. We get mad at people. We say, you're wasting my time. Why are you doing this? But we waste our own time. So I think the biggest mistake you can make is one, wasting your time, not being a good time manager. And also two, being a follower. And like I said earlier, when I first came in, my whole goal was to follow my friends. Whatever they were doing, I was going to do. I wanted to be comfortable and I wanted to be comfortable with them. And so the biggest mistake that I made starting out was trying to be too comfortable. So trying to be too comfortable, not getting out of your comfort zone and wasting my time. And not even just that too, but also not keeping track of my own progress. When my first kind of 2 or 3 years, really my teachers and my mentors, they were the ones telling me, I see you're progressing. I see you're growing. I see you're maturing. And I'm not even keeping up with my own progress. I'm not even doing any self checks and looking at myself and seeing how I am growing. So I think those are some mistakes that you can easily avoid.
Awesome. That's great advice. And I'm glad that you've been able to recognize that that was a mistake. I think so many of us, we all get the same amount of time in a day, but it's just how well are we using all of that time. So, and sometimes we want to say it's not our fault, it's the environment's fault, but there's so many times where we're actually the ones really stopping ourselves by taking up so much of our own time for the wrong things.
Our own
And
time,
so
yeah.
recognizing how you can grow by using your time fully is definitely a great tip. Has there been a mentor, a coach that has really helped you to develop as a leader? And can you give us some examples of what they've done for you?
There are a lot. I mean, we could be here all day. The health science teacher that brought me into HOSA, Miss Axon, she was phenomenal. My ROTC instructors, Gunny Wilson, CW04 Coleman, they were also awesome. Varsity golf coach, Coach Rass, awesome. And I could keep going on and on with names, but the one thing that all of my mentors and coaches and teachers have in common is they guided me. and they knew what real guidance is. Real guidance is saying, you can go down path A or path B. I recommend you going down path A, but no matter what you choose, I'll be there with you. That's how you guide someone. They didn't push me. It wasn't constantly a lot of pushing. It was a lot of guiding. And not only were they guiding me a lot, but they were really giving me honest feedback. They were really building me up. They were giving me that constructive criticism that I didn't want to hear, but that I needed to hear and that I received anyway. And they really guided me. They really have really pushed me into guided me into where I am today. And I mean, I could go on and on. My principal, Mr. Walker, Dr. Buff, my work supervisor, Ms. Fennell, I could go on and on and on with the names, but they all have just guided me into a phenomenal direction. And so I think with your coaches and your mentors, if you're a student leader, the biggest thing you can do is don't fight them. Let them guide you. Let them give you their years and years of experience and wisdom, because you don't have that experience and wisdom yet. You will get it, but as long as you don't have it, you might as well accept it from somebody else, and especially someone who wants to see you thrive.
Awesome. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. Now, one of the things that I put in my book that launched just a couple of weeks ago on student leadership is about having the right attitude. So I usually coach the student leaders that I work with. I tell them in high school, my athletic coach, my basketball coach, he would make us do this thing where we would leave the school anytime we were leaving on an away game. As soon as we left the fences of our school, I had to stand up as the captain of the team and I would yell, attitude check, attitude check. And the entire team would say, team comes first, team comes first. And so, in athletics, it's so important that, as the leader or the entire team have a team comes first attitude. Can you tell us from your perspective how having a team or an organization first attitude can really help you to be successful?
Absolutely. That's one of the main things that ROTC taught me. Attitude is everything. And the first thing that you should be focused on is the group, the collective, because that's what you are a part of. You are a part of it. You are a part of a team. And whether you are a team member or a team leader, you have expectations you should have expectations of yourself, but your team has expectations of you. And you don't want to let your team down. And, it's kind of like the chain metaphor, the weakest link. The team is a chain. You don't want to be the weak link that causes that chain to break. You want to remain strong for your team members. You have to have the mindset of, I'm doing this for someone else. Because when you have the mindset of, I'm doing it for myself, you'll think sometimes, oh, well, if I'm doing it for myself, I can redo it. If I'm doing it for myself, I can try again later. But when you have that attitude of, I'm doing it for the team, I'm doing it for someone else, that's going to give you that extra push to do your absolute best.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you ever had the experience where I'm not sure if they do in ROTC, but I know in athletics often whenever one person falls short, like in practice or something, they'll often have the entire team
Yes.
do some kind of I
Yes.
almost want to say punishment, but it's not really punishment. It's kind of and one of my coaches, he called it reminders. It's like, it's reminders that we need to do better. Was there any time in RTC where you all had some kind of corporate, like as an entire group, we're going to do extra work because someone else made a mistake or faltered, and so we're going to...
Absolutely. So every single year we march in the Christmas parade. And so that requires a great deal of practice on our part because the whole town is there. Everyone comes out for the Christmas parade and we're leading it. We are marching in the very front of it. So when we're practicing and we're marching together, I was a squad leader these past 2 years. So I was in the front, the very front of the parade. And so if I made a mistake, if I messed up, everybody in my squad would therefore mess up. And so when we all messed up, and see, that's one thing that a lot of times people don't understand. Sometimes when you mess up, that causes other people to mess up. And that's why you often have to get those team reminders. So when you mess up, everybody has to drop, give us 20. Everybody has to march an extra lap. Everybody has to do it. And that also kind of helps keep from singling out one person and one person becoming the runt of anything. You don't ever want that to happen. And so as annoying as it can be, when you hear everybody drop, and as annoying as it can be, you have to understand that it's so beneficial for you later on. That's going to help you not make mistakes, but then you're going to be looking out for somebody else to help them not make mistakes too. Because if they make a mistake, that's it for everybody.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you brought that up at the very end there. I was thinking of that same exact thought. I was thinking how, because you don't want the entire group to be punished, you also make sure you're in line, but you also make sure that everyone else is. So you're willing to go and help the entire other people who might be struggling, to make sure that as an entire group, as an entire team, and as an entire organization, we're all having success.
Very
Now,
true.
you got to be your a state officer. How did it feel to when you got the announcement, when you found out? I'm not sure if you got to be on stage. I think since you have a fall conference, right? So you got to be on stage before all the coronavirus stuff hit.
It did. So this happened in March, and this happened like the week before coronavirus hit. So we were extremely lucky, but it was the greatest feeling of my life. I mean, the adrenaline was pumping. What happened was it's kind of like a 3-day period. And so kind of on the second day, we spend the entire day from like 9 to 4 meeting with people. So the candidates will have tables open kind of like in a big space in the hotel, and members can just come and have a dialogue with us. And then what happens is those members in turn go back to their voting delegates and say, hey, this guy, this girl, they're great, this is the one. And then of course you'll be meeting the voting delegates themselves. And then around 5 o'clock, I think, we had a voting delegate meeting. So all of the voting delegates came together. The candidates, we had one last minute to talk to them and say, this is me, vote for me. And then the voting delegates voted. And from that period between 5 o'clock to maybe 8:30, that was the worst period of my life. My stomach could not sit still. I had a headache out of this world. I could not focus. People were talking to me and I could not hear them. I was just out of it. And then we went into the grand awards session, and we had to sit through the whole session. We were the final piece of it, the state officers. And what happened was all of the candidates, we were all sitting in a line, and they started calling out positions. They said reporter, they said Anid, they said secretary, they said Casey Henshaw, and they went on and on. And when they said Vice President James Wilson, I literally jumped out of my seat. I mean, I literally, my chapter was sitting behind me, and they said they saw me fly out of that seat. I can't even remember it. I almost tore up my suit on, I almost tore my suit. It was an outstanding feeling. And it was an outstanding feeling, not just because, oh, I have this title now. It was an outstanding feeling because that's the pinnacle of my high school career, really. That's everything I've worked for, everything. ROTC, HOSA, National Honor Society, all of these different things, they really came together in that one test of leadership. And so for me to pass that test, I mean, I was out of it. I was so happy.
Now, how did your friends react? How did your family react? How did everyone else react? They saw you jump.
Yeah.
Did everyone else start to jump? Were they screaming and yelling? What was that like?
Yes, there were a lot of tears, a lot of tears, a lot of tears. I wasn't even crying. I wasn't crying until I saw them crying. My chapter ran up to me. They were crying. They were screaming. They were so happy. They were recording everything. The place we were in just erupted in a lot of everything, clapping, people screaming and things like that. And so it was an outstanding feeling. And the reactions for me were also one of the best parts. Were people coming up to me and saying, I'm so glad you won. I voted for you. My chapter voted for you. I told my voting delegate, you're not going to be my friend anymore if you don't vote for James. And so the reactions that I got, they were amazing. Whenever I get kind of bored, or whenever I get down, whenever I start feeling sad or something is happening, I go back to that march. I go back to that feeling, and it brings me right out of it.
That's so awesome. And you have that awesome moment, and the emotion that's attached to that has got to be great. Is there some things on your campaign that you were really focused in on, where you're like, I need to make sure that this works well for my campaign?
Well, honestly, I had never really done a campaign before. Every other position that I had ever had was kind of appointed. You interview and they pick you. So my campaign, I won't say that I didn't know what to do, but I kind of just went free. And I did not want to make a lot of promises in my campaign because, HOSA, there's a difference between a student organization and a club. Oftentimes with a club, you have more flexibility in what you can do. And with an organization, with a board of directors and a this and a that, you don't have all that flexibility. So the centerpiece of my campaign is I'm making myself available to you. If I become your vice president, you're going to have my email address. You're going to have my personal phone number. You're going to have all these ways to reach out to me. My biggest thing for you, I'm presenting you me. I'm ready to give myself to you. If you need help, call me. If you need assistance, email me. Whatever I can do for you. I did not want to make a whole lot of promises because, again, I didn't know if I could keep them. And the biggest thing with campaigning was campaigning did not have a lot of time. I didn't have a lot of time. We couldn't campaign on the first day. We wanted to keep it kind of a fair playing field. So I campaigned hard for an entire day. And I'm going to tell you, my advice for anyone running for state officer, get some cough drops, because I was talking so much to so many people that by the end of that day, after all the talking, all the campaigning, all the screaming, all the crying, I could barely speak. And I like to talk, So that was a problem for me. But I think my campaign was really just focused on, this is who I am, and I'm giving myself to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that last part, just as a, I love how you talk about having service first. I need to talk about that first. Having that mindset that, I can't promise many things, but I can promise that I'm willing to serve you.
Right.
So being willing to be available, being willing to serve, I think is a great tactic. And then the first thing I thought of is anytime where if I have multiple speeches, because I don't just speak at student leadership events, I also go and do school assemblies everywhere. So my lips get chapped. I'm from a tropical part of South Texas. So, here there's a lot of moisture in the air. Anytime I go to other states where the moisture is not the same, my arms feel crazy dry, my hands hurt, my lips hurt, and even my voice. So I'm always having to have cough drops and chapstick with me at all times.
I'm telling you, that weekend when I got back, we had a 3-day leadership conference, and then I had 2 more days of training. That entire week afterwards, I was completely out of it. I could barely speak. I was in bed most of that week. That it took me out. It took me completely out. But I feel you now. I have a ton of Vaseline in here. I keep a gallon jug of water with me at all times now. I'm really taking better care of myself.
Now, yeah, that was one of the things that was like a savior for me, is the use of Vaseline. I had never used it. And then this lady at my church told me when I came back on Christmas break, I was like, my hands always hurt. When I first moved to DC, I was like, my hands always hurt. My lips are always on fire. My elbows are super dry. And she was like, oh, you need to use Vaseline. And so that was like a secret tip that no one had ever told me, but I ended up using it all the rest of college when I was in DC. What are your college and career plans?
So I want to go to college here in Georgia. I don't plan on going out of state, and I want to participate in the Army ROTC program. So I'll be a college student full time, and I'll be participating in ROTC, taking military courses, physical fitness training, all of those great things, so that by the time I graduate college, I'll not only have my degree, but I'll also be able to go directly into the Army as an officer. So, as one of the leaders of the Army. And as far as where I want to go, I'm looking at Kennesaw, Georgia State, definitely not Southern. I'm looking at UGA. I'm looking at all of these different places. And right now that the ACT and SAT requirement has been lifted, it is open range. It is free fall right now.
Yeah, actually, one of my trips that I took in college was we had a game against Georgia Southern. So I'm glad that they're not on your list, because it was not the funnest day for my team. They were a very good team. But I wanted to ask, how can people find you? You said you gave out your number, your email, all that stuff. But how, if someone else, maybe that's not a part of HOSA, but maybe they're just a student leader and they watch this and they think to themselves, oh, I would love to connect with James. How can they best reach you?
So the best way to reach me really is honestly Instagram. I love Instagram. I'm on Instagram all of the time. You can follow me at @the_James Wilson. You can follow me on Twitter, James Wilson 0904. You can email me, all lowercase, jtwilson0904 @gmail.com. You can connect with me on LinkedIn. Type in James Wilson NCSS, and everything you go to, my picture is going to be there, so you'll know that it's me. And when you follow me, don't just follow, DM me, direct message me, say, hey, I heard about you through this podcast. I promise you, I'm not going to leave you on red. I promise you.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I try to do myself. I always try to make sure I'm not just going to leave. As I go and I speak all across the country, and I read every single message, because you never know. I always think, part of being on stage, part of being in service, and part of being a leader is, again, we talked about earlier, the team comes first. So I think the world comes first, society comes first. So I'm never going to leave a student on red. unless they're saying something really negative or crazy. But
Right. And you get that. Sometimes you get people who will reach out to you and they don't care. And then, you have to balance that with, there are some people who are reaching out to you, they need help. They need help, they want some guidance, they want some assistance. And also, a lot of times when people reach out to you, it's not just me giving to them. I'm learning from them too. We learn from each other. So that's really great for me.
yeah, absolutely. James, do you have a favorite quote, and how have you applied that as a student leader?
My favorite quote is it's a speech. It's a part of a speech, The Man in the Arena from Theodore Roosevelt. I love it. And basically, in this part of the speech, he's saying that it's not the critics who count. It's not the people who are watching you do what you do. Are the only one that counts. If you are actively trying and giving your best and fighting the good fight, then that's all that matters. Don't pay attention to anyone else. And I really had to apply that because one thing that you'll meet as a student leader, you will meet negativity. There's no doubt. You will meet people who are negative, who are jealous, who will try to put you down, who will try to hold you down. You're definitely going to meet that. You're going to meet people who criticize you and say you could have done this better, you could have done that better. And at the end of the day, you have to be confident. If you are confident that you gave your best and you gave your all and you fought that good fight, then nothing else that anybody can say matters. But with that quote, you also have to know the difference between criticism, unnecessary criticism, and constructive criticism. They're gonna, the man in the arena, when he's done in the arena, he's gonna go back out to his coach and to his circle, and they're gonna say, hey, this is what you could have done better. So you have to know the difference between criticism that's unnecessary and constructive. I remember once, I just thought about this. I applied to be on this council in 10th grade, and I did not make it. And then I applied again my 11th grade year, and I did make it. And my friend called me. She was happy for me. She was like, James, I'm so happy for you, and this and that. And she said, but James, listen, XYZ and ABC, they were talking to me on the phone, and they were like, they can't believe you made it. How could you make it? And this and that. And they're saying that you shouldn't have been picked and all of this stuff. And I stopped her right there. I said, I don't want to hear anymore. I said, I did this. I made it. I asked for help from certain people. They gave it to me, and I made it to where I am. And at the end of the day, they can't kick me off the council anyway. So I'm gonna do my best regardless.
Yeah, and I love that quote. It's one of my favorite quotes also. And one of the things I think of is nowadays we've gotten so used to being able to be the critic,
Yes.
especially with so much social media out there. If I post something or if I share something, I might offend or I might hurt someone or any little thing. And I have to figure out, is it someone who's being just a critic or having that constructive criticism, analyze like, okay, no, this is something that I definitely can change and I should change, or is
Right.
this just someone who wanted to say something because it's easy to do that.
Right.
So it's really, I think, having that perspective of, I'm still going to be in the arena, I'm still going to go and serve, I'm still going to go and lead, no matter how many critics or how many people say things. I'm still going to go and do my best to help and benefit others.
Very true.
I love that.
Yeah.
Now, I did want to ask one final thing. At the end of this, I always ask for, I get to go and I speak to student leaders all the time. I go speak at schools, but I wanted to give you my platform now. I'm going to kind of put you on the spotlight and give you a moment to share 1, 2, up to 5 minutes or so, and give you a moment to really be, you're the motivational speaker now. So I'm going to put myself on mute. I've made you the entire video now. So if you give me 1 second, and then, just share tips, advice. If you want to go back to the same quotes, usually I chop this up. So this part may be used completely separate from the rest of the interview. So, if you want to reintroduce yourself, or if you want to bring up topics you've already talked about, that's no problem at all.
Okay. All right, so hey, listeners and watchers and viewers, I'm James Wilson, the State Vice President of Georgia HOSA, and I want to first thank you for taking the time to listen to what I have to say. I want to begin by telling you a story. When I was at a leadership camp for ROTC, it was a week-long camp, and the first 2 days, I was doing great. It was a lot of physical fitness type stuff. We were doing teamwork challenges. We were running and jumping, doing everything. And then on Tuesday night, you'll never believe this, but my girlfriend broke up with me. And I was hurt and crushed and demolished. And then on Wednesday, I could not perform my best. I was falling down. I was tripping over people. I was distant. I was out of it. And one of my close friends, she came up to me and she said, listen, James, I don't know what's going on with you. I don't know what happened. And she said, honestly, I don't want to know. She said, you are a leader. You have to be a leader, and people expect things from their leaders. You have to be able to meet those expectations. You have to become a leader and an overcomer. You have to overcome whatever's going on and get back in the game. And when that happened, I jumped right back in and I started going full throttle. And that's the biggest thing that I want you to take from this. A lot of times we call leaders only leaders. I always say you are a leader and you are an overcomer. Right now, we're living in some difficult, challenging, obstacle-filled times. And I want you to understand as a leader that it is your job to overcome those challenges. When you accept the mantle of leadership, you don't just accept a bunch of fancy titles and name badges and nice clothes. You accept responsibility, and you accept the fact that people are going to expect things from you. And so it is your job to overcome all of life's obstacles. Life is going to constantly be throwing curveballs at you. It's going to constantly be trying to get in your way and stop you from doing the great things that you're doing. And you can really take comfort in knowing that the more you try to do and the better you try to do, the more you're going to face. Every single time you take a step up, something is going to try to cause you to take 2 more steps down. And you have to be a leader and overcome those obstacles. And I always think back to what she said to me. You are a leader. You have to overcome these challenges. And I also want to let you know, right now, we are in a pandemic. This is a challenging time, but this is not the time for you to get lax. This is not the time for you to lay back and say, hey, there's nothing I can do. Find a way to serve. Find a way to lead. Find a way to participate in something, to become a part of something that is bigger than yourself. Whether that means you join a student organization like HOSA, or whether that means you join a team or you start to find a way to serve your community with your mask on, of course. Find a way to do something. Find a way to continue to develop yourself. That personal growth and development, that doesn't stop just because we're in a pandemic. That has to continue. And so I hope that you were able to take something from my time with you. I hope that you were able to learn something. And I definitely hope that you will take the opportunity to reach out to me. I gave all of my social media platforms earlier in the interview. I'll give one. You can follow me on Instagram at @the_James Wilson. My picture is there, so you'll be able to see it. I sincerely hope that you'll reach out to me. And I sincerely hope that you learned something today. So thank you so much.
That was so awesome. You know, if I was on stage, I'd be like, everybody needs to stand and give a round of applause, shout, make some noise. That really was absolutely awesome. And this has been one of my all-time favorite interviews. I've gotten to interview and work with thousands of student leaders across the country. And it's definitely a reason why you've been selected, you've been appointed to many leadership opportunities, and you've been selected as a Student Leader of the Year for multiple awards. James, congratulations to all the success you've had. Thank you so much for taking the time to serve today. Thank you for serving the student leaders who are going to watch this, who get to be a part of challenges or read books and things like that. You know, I love how you talked about just because there's a pandemic doesn't mean that you can't still grow, doesn't mean that you can't still serve, doesn't mean that you can't still lead. So everyone out there that got to listen today, you were in for a special treat. James had an amazing, or gave so many great tips, so much great advice. And I think everyone who got to listen today definitely got to grow, no matter whether they listened during a pandemic or whether they listen much later in the future. The stuff that James shared today will apply always. So thank you so much, James. It was an honor to have you as a guest. And good luck with the rest of all the things that you do. I know you're going to go and do amazing things, and you're going to overcome and lead in this world. So thank you so much, James.
Thank you. And as I close, I just want to say, you are a champion, always.
Oh, yes, sir. And I love the hashtag HOSA that you did.
I throw that in a lot of times when I'm speaking about other things. I love going into TSA meetings and just, breaking down with a lot of coughs. HOSA, HOSA, HOSA. So
It's definitely a great way to steal some some moments just like that. So, but really, James, thank you so much. If you ever need anything from me, feel free to message me. I'm also glad to serve. Or if you see that I'm connected with someone that you want to connect with, I love connecting people to other people, leaders to other leaders. So whatever you ever need, just give me a holler, and I'm here for you, James. Thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
the time today.